Jack Martinez stood at the viewport of the UNS Valiant, watching the stars. His blue uniform felt tight around his neck today. 10 years had passed since the war with the Draconids ended. 10 years of quiet, of rebuilding, of trying to forget what they had done to Earth's colonies. The ship's computer beeped. Jack turned to see red dots appearing on the screen. Draconid ships, moving close to the border again. "Commander, we're tracking 5 Draconid vessels changing course toward Outpost 7, said Eric, the young officer at the radar station. Jack rubbed his chin. "Still in their territory?" "Yes, sir. They haven't crossed the line." Jack nodded. The Draconids were careful. They never broke the rules of the truce, but they liked to push right up to the edge. It was their way of showing they weren't afraid. "Keep watching them. Let me know if they get within 50,000 kilometers of the border." Jack walked to his office and sat down. He opened a small drawer and took out a photo of Laura, his wife. She was back on Earth, working in a lab where they studied Draconid technology. Her last message said she missed him and was making progress on her research. Jack smiled at her face before putting the photo away. His screen lit up with a call from Earth Command. "Commander Martinez, we've been watching the Draconid movements in your sector," said Admiral Peters, her face serious on the screen. "Yes, Admiral. They're staying on their side, but they're getting bolder each week. We think they're testing us, seeing how we react. Intelligence suggests they've built 3 new warships in the past month." Jack frowned. "The truce limits them to 1 new ship per quarter." "Exactly. We don't have proof yet, but we're concerned." The Admiral leaned closer to the screen. "I'm sending you new orders. You're to adjust your patrol route to include the research colony on Proxima Centauri. Dr. Grant has reported unusual activity in that sector." Jack knew Olivia Grant. She was one of the best scientists they had, and not someone who panicked easily. "We'll change course immediately," Jack said. 3 days later, the UNS Valiant reached Proxima Centauri. The research colony sat on the edge of a vast red plain. 100 domes connected by tubes housed the 1,500 scientists and their families who lived there. Dr. Olivia Grant met Jack at the landing pad. Her curly hair blew in the thin atmosphere as she secured her breathing mask. "Thank you for coming so quickly, Commander," she said as they walked to the main research building. Inside her office, Dr. Grant closed the door and turned on a device that prevented anyone from listening in. "We've detected unusual energy readings from the dark side of the planet," she said, pulling up images on her screen. "At first we thought it was natural, but the pattern is too regular." Jack studied the readings. "Draconids? We think so. The energy signature matches their ships, but it's much larger than anything we've seen before." She showed Jack more data, pointing to specific patterns. "Whatever they're doing, they're trying to hide it. They only work when this side of the planet faces away from Earth." "This could violate the truce," Jack said quietly. "There's more." Dr. Grant lowered her voice. "Yesterday, one of our drones caught this before it malfunctioned. The image showed the outline of a massive structure partially hidden by the planet's shadow." Jack felt a chill run down his spine. The shape matched nothing in human or known Draconid design, but its purpose seemed clear. It was a weapon. "How long have they been building this?" he asked. "Based on our data, at least 2 years. Right under our noses." Jack tapped his communicator. "Valiant, this is Commander Martinez. Send all this data to Earth Command, highest priority." As he looked at the mysterious structure again, Jack's thoughts turned to Laura and the billions of humans across the settled worlds. The Draconids were planning something, and the fragile peace that had lasted a decade suddenly felt as thin as paper. "We should increase security around the colony," he told Dr. Grant. "I don't like this one bit." Neither of them knew they were already running out of time. Jack was awakened by a blaring alarm. He jumped from his bed and ran to the bridge of the UNS Valiant, his heart pounding. "Report," he shouted as he entered. Eric looked up from his station, his face pale. Sir, we're receiving an emergency signal from the research colony. They're under attack. Draconids? Yes, sir. At least 7 warships appeared without warning. They came out of nowhere. Jack felt his blood run cold. Set course for Proxima Centauri. Maximum speed. Alert Earth Command. The Valiant's engines roared to life as the ship turned and accelerated toward the colony. Jack gripped the edge of his command chair, willing the ship to move faster. How did they get past our early warning systems? He asked. Unknown, sir, replied the tactical officer. But we're detecting some kind of new energy signature. It seems to be disrupting our sensors. 6 hours later, they arrived at Proxima Centauri. What they found made Jack's stomach turn. Where the colony had stood was now a smoking crater. The domes were gone. The buildings were gone. Everything was gone. Life signs? Jack asked quietly. None, sir. The attack was thorough. 1,500 people. All gone. Jack ordered the ship to maintain a safe distance while they scanned for Draconid ships. Any sign of Dr. Grant's research team? No, sir, but wait. The communications officer looked up. We're receiving a data packet. It was set to broadcast on a loop after the attack. Put it on screen. Dr. Grant's face appeared, her lab visible behind her. Alarms were blaring and people were running in the background. This is Dr. Olivia Grant of Proxima Research Colony. We are under attack by Draconid forces. They came without warning. I'm sending all our data on the weapon they've been building. It's worse than we thought. They've created something that can disable our defense systems remotely. This was all planned, a deliberate. An explosion rocked her lab. The camera shook and fell. For a moment, they could see Dr. Grant crawling toward it. Her face filled the screen, blood running down her forehead. They violated the truce. They've been planning this all along. Tell Earth. Tell them to prepare. This is just the beginning. She looked over her shoulder, fear in her eyes. They're coming. Remember Proxima. The transmission cut to static. Sir, the tactical officer called out, I'm detecting multiple ships moving toward our position. Draconid signatures. It's a trap, Jack realized. They knew someone would respond to the distress call. Get us out of here, random jump coordinates. The Valiant barely escaped as Draconid ships converged on their position. As they jumped to safety, Jack ordered all the data from Dr. Grant's transmission sent to Earth Command. Back on Earth, Laura Martinez was called to an emergency meeting at the Defense Command Center. Admiral Peters stood before a room of scientists and military leaders, her face grim. The Draconids have destroyed our research colony at Proxima Centauri. All hands lost. This was not an accident or a misunderstanding. It was a deliberate attack. Gasps and murmurs filled the room. Laura felt her heart sink, thinking of Jack out there on patrol. The UNS Valiant managed to recover crucial data before escaping an ambush. This data confirms the Draconids have been developing a superweapon in violation of the truce. Admiral Peters looked at each person in the room. As of 800 hours this morning, Earth has formally declared war on the Draconid Empire. We expect this conflict to be unlike anything we faced before. She turned to Laura. Dr. Martinez, your expertise with Draconid technology is now vital. You're being reassigned to a classified project, effective immediately. What project? Laura asked. Operation Phoenix. If we're going to survive this war, we need to understand their technology better than they do. And we need to do it fast. As Laura was led to a secure elevator heading deep underground, she couldn't help thinking about Jack, out there in space, facing an enemy that had just shown its true nature. The truce was over. The war had begun. 3 months had passed since the attack on Proxima Centauri. Things were not going well for humanity. The Draconids had taken 5 human colonies in just the first month of fighting. Their new weapons cut through Earth's best defenses like they were made of paper. Jack sat in the captain's chair of the UNS Valiant. Earth Command had promoted him after the ship's previous captain died in a battle near Saturn. The ship was damaged, with burn marks on its hull and only half its weapons working. "Captain, we have 12 civilian ships ready to jump," said Eric, now Jack's first officer. Jack looked at the screen showing Alpha Centauri, the human colony that was home to over 50,000 people. Now they all had to leave before the Draconids arrived. "Tell them to prepare for jump on my mark," Jack ordered. He turned to his tactical officer. "Any sign of the enemy fleet?" "Yes, sir. They're coming in fast. 20 minutes until they reach firing range." Jack stood up and walked to the front of the bridge. "We need to buy those civilians more time. Take us toward the enemy fleet." The crew looked nervous, but they followed his orders. The damaged Valiant moved to place itself between the enemy and the evacuation ships. "Sir, we can't take on that many ships alone," Eric said quietly. "We don't need to win. We just need to slow them down." Jack's face was determined. "Those people need time to escape." The first Draconid ships appeared on the screen. They were sleek and deadly, their hulls glowing with strange purple energy. They fired the moment they saw the Valiant. "Evasive maneuvers," Jack shouted. "Return fire, all working weapons." The ship shook violently as enemy fire hit its shields. The Valiant fired back, its lasers striking one of the smaller Draconid ships. For 15 minutes, they played a dangerous game of cat and mouse. The Valiant took heavy damage, but Jack's crew fought well. They managed to destroy 2 enemy ships and damage 3 others. "Civilian ships are jumping now, sir," Eric called out. "Last one leaves in 2 minutes." Jack nodded. "Prepare our jump coordinates. We leave as soon as the last civilian ship is clear." The ship rocked again as a direct hit knocked out their main weapons. "Shields at 12%, the tactical officer shouted. Jack gripped his chair as another blast hit them. "Status of civilian ships. Last one jumping. Now." "They're clear, sir." "Get us out of here," Jack ordered. The Valiant jumped away just as the Draconid ships closed in for the kill. They had saved the civilians, but lost another colony. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains on Earth, Laura worked day and night in the Operation Phoenix labs. She hadn't slept more than 4 hours at a time since the war began. Her team had gathered pieces of Draconid technology from the First Contact War, trying to understand how it worked. "Dr. Martinez, you need to see this," said Paul, one of her assistants. Laura looked up from her microscope. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep, but they widened as she saw what Paul was showing her. "We finally cracked their shield frequency," Paul said excitedly. "Look at how it changes patterns every 3 seconds." Laura studied the data. "This could be the breakthrough we've been looking for. If we can predict the pattern, we could create weapons that bypass their shields," Paul finished. For the first time in months, Laura smiled. "Get this to the weapons team immediately." In another part of the complex, Admiral Sam Winters looked at a map showing human and Draconid territories. More red areas appeared each day as the Draconids advanced. "We can't hold Ta City," one of his generals said. "There are too many of them." Admiral Winters nodded grimly. "Order our forces to destroy all infrastructure before retreating. Nothing useful gets left behind." "Sir, there are still civilians who haven't evacuated." "Then get them out faster," Winters snapped. "But the order stands. We destroy everything we can't take with us. The Draconids get nothing but ashes." As Winters walked away, he knew his orders would make him hated by many. But he also knew that humanity was fighting for its survival now. And sometimes survival required making hard choices. The clock was ticking. Humanity needed a victory soon, or there would be nothing left to save. 6 months into the war, Laura hadn't seen the sun in weeks. The underground complex had become her home as she and her team worked nonstop on Project Phoenix. Today, she stood in front of Admiral Winters and the Joint Military Command with hope in her eyes for the first time. "It works," she said simply, pointing to the screen behind her. "We've created a device that can send messages faster than light without the Draconids being able to detect or intercept them." The room filled with murmurs of excitement. Until now, every human communication had been vulnerable to Draconid spying. And the shield penetration? Admiral Winters asked. Laura nodded. That works too. We've developed a weapon that changes frequency to match their shields. It can punch right through their defenses. Admiral Winters stood up. This changes everything. How quickly can we put this into production? The communication devices can be ready in 2 weeks. The new weapons will take a month. Make it happen, Doctor. Winters turned to his officers. It's time we stopped running and started fighting back. Across the galaxy, Jack received new orders. The UNS Valiant, now repaired and upgraded, was to pick up a special operations team for a classified mission. When the team arrived, Jack was surprised to find only 3 people. Marine Sergeant Kelly Diaz, a tough woman with short black hair and more combat medals than anyone Jack had ever met. A civilian named Ben Collins, who used to be a smuggler before the war, and a scientist who specialized in Draconid language and culture. Captain Martinez, Sergeant Diaz said with a salute. We're your new special ops team. Just the 3 of you? Jack asked. Ben Collins smiled. Small teams move faster. And where we're going, we don't want to attract attention. The scientist handed Jack a datapad. These are our mission parameters from Admiral Winters. We're going behind enemy lines. Jack read the orders and felt his heart race. They were to infiltrate Draconid territory and gather intelligence on their command structure. It was practically a suicide mission. When do we leave? He asked. Immediately, Diaz replied. And sir, your ship will be getting some upgrades first. 3 days later, the Valiant looked different. Its hull was darker, with new technology that made it nearly invisible to Draconid sensors. The new engines were quieter and faster than anything in the human fleet. It's the first ship with all of Dr. Martinez's breakthroughs built in, Diaz explained. Your wife's work may save us all, Captain. Jack felt a surge of pride thinking about Laura. He hadn't seen her in months, but her work was now giving humanity a fighting chance. The upgraded Valiant slipped past Draconid patrols with ease. Their mission took them to a small moon, where a Draconid command post monitored ship movements. We need to get inside and access their central computer, Collins said as they prepared for the mission. Jack, Diaz, and Collins put on special suits that would mask their human life signs. The scientists stayed on the ship to guide them through Draconid systems and translate if needed. They landed a small craft 2 miles from the base and approached on foot. The Draconid security was tight, but their new technology kept them hidden. There, Diaz whispered, pointing to a vent shaft. That's our way in. Inside the base, they moved silently through service corridors, avoiding Draconid soldiers. The aliens were tall, with scaled skin and sharp claws. Their eyes glowed yellow in the dim light. When they reached the central computer room, Collins used special tools to hack into the system, while Jack and Diaz stood guard. I'm in, Collins said after several tense minutes, downloading their command protocols now. As the data streamed into their devices, Jack noticed something on the screen. Wait, look at this. He pointed to a diagram of the Draconid command structure. Everything flows from the top down. If their leaders can't give orders, their whole military falls apart. Diaz nodded slowly. They're not used to making decisions on their own. Each level only follows orders from above. That's their weakness, Jack said, a plan forming in his mind. We don't need to outgun them. We just need to cut off their head. They finished downloading the data and slipped back to their ship unseen. As the Valiant jumped away from Draconid space, Jack knew they had found the key to humanity's survival. Now they just needed to use it. Admiral Winters stood before a wall of screens showing the locations of human and Draconid fleets. For the first time since the war began, he was smiling. The intelligence Captain Martinez brought back has changed everything, he told the room full of commanders. We now know that Draconid ships won't act without direct orders from their leaders. Their captains don't think for themselves. He pointed to several points on the map. We will hit them here, here, and here. Small strikes targeting their command ships only. Once those ships are gone, the rest will be confused and easy to pick off. The plan worked better than anyone expected. Human ships, now equipped with Laura's shield-penetrating weapons, struck quickly at Draconid command vessels and then disappeared before the enemy could respond. Within a month, humanity had destroyed 23 command ships and captured 2 others. On the Valiant, Jack and his team prepared for their most dangerous mission yet. They had captured a Draconid officer during their last raid and learned valuable information. Their main battle group is here, in the Rigel system, Jack explained to his crew, pointing to a star map. And they're vulnerable. Their supreme commander is visiting to boost morale after their recent losses. Sergeant Diaz checked her weapons. One strike at their leadership could cripple their entire war effort. Ben Collins nodded. My sources confirm the Supreme Commander's ship will be there for 3 days. If we can capture him, it could end the war. Back on Earth, Laura walked into a secure meeting room to find Admiral Winters waiting for her. Dr. Martinez, your work has been remarkable, he said. The new weapons are turning the tide of the war. Thank you, Admiral. But I've been working on something else too. Laura showed him a small device. This can detect Draconid biology at a molecular level. It can tell us if someone is a Draconid, even if they look human. Winters looked surprised. Why would we need that? Because we've captured Draconids who were altered to look exactly like humans. They're spies, Admiral. They could be anywhere. Winters immediately ordered all personnel to be tested. The results shocked everyone. 3 high-ranking officers and 12 other staff were discovered to be Draconid spies. One had been working just 2 doors down from Laura's lab. In space, the human fleet prepared for Operation Hammer, the largest coordinated attack since the war began. While the main fleet engaged Draconid forces at Rigel, Jack's team would sneak in and capture or eliminate the Supreme Commander. The night before the mission, Jack sat alone in his quarters looking at a picture of Laura. A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. Enter, he called. Ben Collins walked in. Captain, I need to talk to you about tomorrow's mission. What's on your mind, Collins? I think I should be the one to lead the boarding party, Collins said. I know Draconid ships better than anyone. Jack studied the man carefully. Something felt off. We'll stick to the plan. Sergeant Diaz leads the boarding party. You provide technical support. Collins' face showed a flash of anger before he nodded. As you wish, Captain. After Collins left, Jack contacted Earth using the new secure communication system. This is Captain Martinez. I need to run a check on Ben Collins immediately. The next day, as the Valiant approached the Rigel system under stealth, Earth sent their response. Jack read it with a cold feeling in his stomach. The scan showed that Collins had Draconid DNA markers. He was a spy. Jack quietly ordered security to find Collins, but he had already disabled the ship's internal sensors and disappeared. He'll try to warn them, Diaz said as they searched the ship. We need to find him before he sends a message. The mission now faced 2 dangers: the Draconid fleet ahead and the enemy agent hiding somewhere on their ship. Time was running out, and Jack knew that the fate of humanity might depend on what happened in the next few hours. The hunt was on. The Valiant moved silently through space, its stealth systems hiding it from Draconid sensors. Jack ordered the ship to battle stations as they approached the Rigel system. Meanwhile, Sergeant Diaz led a team searching for Ben Collins. Captain, we found something, Diaz reported over the comm. Collins broke into weapons storage. A shuttle is missing. Jack felt his stomach sink. He's going to warn them. How long ago? Less than 10 minutes. The shuttle doesn't have stealth tech. We can catch it. Do it, Jack ordered. But don't destroy it. We need to know what information he's carrying. The Valiant changed course to pursue the small shuttle. Their sensors picked it up quickly, heading toward the Draconid fleet at full speed. Target their engines only, Jack ordered. The Valiant fired a precise shot that disabled the shuttle's engines. It drifted in space, helpless. "Bring it back, and put Collins in the brig under heavy guard." When they brought Collins to the brig, his face changed. His skin rippled and took on a slight green tint. His human disguise was failing. "You're too late," Collins said, his voice deeper than before. "My people know you're coming." Jack looked him in the eyes. "No, they don't. You didn't send any messages. We've been jamming all communications since we discovered what you are." For the first time, fear showed on Collins' face. Jack returned to the bridge. "The main fleet is engaging the Draconid forces. It's time for us to complete our mission." The Valiant slipped past the battle raging at the edge of the system, while hundreds of ships fired at each other, creating a light show visible for millions of miles. Jack's ship headed straight for the Draconid command vessel. The plan was simple but dangerous. A small team would board the command ship and capture the Supreme Commander. Without their leader, the Draconid forces would fall into confusion. As the team prepared to leave, Jack was surprised to see Laura waiting in the shuttle bay. "What are you doing here?" he asked in shock. "Admiral Winters sent me," she explained. "I've developed something we need to use on this mission, and I'm the only one who knows how it works." She showed him a small device. This can temporarily paralyze the Draconid leadership caste without harming humans. It disrupts their nervous system, but it needs to be calibrated precisely, or it could kill them. Jack was torn between the mission and keeping his wife safe. "Laura, this is too dangerous. This could end the war, Jack. I have to go." Her eyes showed she wouldn't back down. Sergeant Diaz joined them. "Sir, we're ready." Jack nodded. "Let's move out." The boarding team included Jack, Laura, Diaz, and 4 Marines. They approached the Draconid command ship in a small shuttle disguised as debris from the battle. The huge vessel didn't notice them until they were attaching to its hull. "They've spotted us," one of the Marines warned. "Security teams are heading to this section." "We need to move fast," Diaz said. She placed explosives on the hull. "Everyone back." The explosion created a hole in the ship's hull. Emergency shields contained the breach, but the team was able to slip through before they fully activated. Inside, they faced immediate resistance. Draconid soldiers fired at them from both ends of the corridor. "This way," Jack shouted, leading them down a side passage. Laura consulted a map they had taken from Collins. "The command center is 3 levels up," she said. They fought their way through the ship, Diaz and her Marines clearing each section with brutal efficiency. The new weapons cut through Draconid shields like they weren't even there. Finally, they'd reached the door to the command center. It was sealed with a heavy security lock. "I can bypass it, but it will take time," Laura said, working on the control panel. "We don't have time," Diaz replied. She placed her last explosives on the door. "Everyone take cover." The explosion rocked the ship and blew the door open. Through the smoke, they saw a large room filled with Draconid officers. At the center stood a tall figure wearing ornate armor, the Supreme Commander. Jack looked at his wife. "Now, Laura." She activated her device. A wave of invisible energy spread through the room. The Draconids froze in place, unable to move. "It worked," Laura whispered. The team entered the room, weapons ready. The Supreme Commander could only watch as humans took control of his ship. Operation Hammer had succeeded. The turning point of the war had arrived. Jack stood face to face with the Supreme Commander of the Draconid forces. The alien was tall, with dark green scales and yellow eyes that glared with hatred. Laura's device had paralyzed his body, but he could still speak. "You have made a mistake coming here, human," the Supreme Commander hissed. "My death will only make my people fight harder." "We're not here to kill you," Jack replied. "We're here to end this war." Sergeant Diaz and her Marines secured the command center, while Laura connected her tablet to the Draconid computer systems. "I'm in," she said after a few minutes. "Their entire command network is accessible from here." Jack turned back to the Supreme Commander. Why did you attack our colony? We had a truce. The alien's eyes narrowed. I gave no such order. Don't lie to us, Diaz said angrily. We saw your ships destroy Proxima Centauri. The 1,500 civilians died. Jack, you need to see this, Laura called from the computer terminal. Her face had gone pale. On the screen was an order for the attack on Proxima Centauri, but it wasn't signed by the Supreme Commander. It was signed by someone called War Minister Jack. Who is Jack? Jack asked the Supreme Commander. The alien's face showed surprise, then anger. He is my war minister. He should not have the authority to order such an attack. Laura continued digging through the files. There's more. Look at these messages between Jack and military commanders. He's been planning this war for years, even while you were negotiating the truce. The Supreme Commander's eyes widened. Show me. Laura turned the screen so he could see it. After reading the messages, the alien closed his eyes. Jack has betrayed us all, he said quietly. He believed humans would eventually become too powerful. He wanted to destroy you while he still could. Jack looked at Laura, then back at the alien leader. So you didn't want this war? I signed a truce in good faith. War is costly. Peace is preferable. The Supreme Commander's voice was bitter. But Jack acted without my knowledge, using his influence over certain military leaders. At that moment, the ship shook. Admiral Winter's voice came through Jack's communicator. Captain Martinez, what's your status? We've engaged the Draconid fleet, but they're fighting harder than expected. Sir, we have the Supreme Commander, Jack reported, and we've discovered something important. The attack on Proxima wasn't ordered by him. It was a rogue action by his war minister. There was silence for a moment. Can you verify this? Laura spoke up. Yes, Admiral. I have access to their full command records. The Supreme Commander was betrayed, just like we were. Jack looked at the alien leader. Where is Jack now? On our homeworld. He controls the Imperial Palace and has convinced many that I am weak for not attacking humans sooner. The Supreme Commander's eyes met Jack's. He must be removed before he destroys both our civilizations. Admiral Winter's voice came back. Captain, what's your assessment? Jack thought for a moment. I believe he's telling the truth, sir, and I think we have an opportunity here. Explain. If we help the Supreme Commander regain control from Jack, we could end this war today. Their fleet would stand down on his orders. There was a long pause before Winters responded. The Draconids have killed billions of our people, Captain. Yes, sir, but continuing the war will cost billions more on both sides. The Supreme Commander spoke up. I offer unconditional surrender. My people will submit to whatever terms you demand. But help me stop Jack before he causes more destruction. Admiral Winters sighed heavily. Very well. We'll send a joint force to the Draconid homeworld. But Captain, if this is a trick. It's not, sir. I stake my life on it. As the human fleet surrounded the Draconid command ship, Jack knew they stood at a turning point. Victory was within humanity's grasp. But the real question now was, what kind of victory would they choose? 1 week later, a fleet of ships approached the Draconid homeworld. Human vessels flew alongside loyal Draconid ships in a sight no one would have believed possible just days before. Jack stood on the bridge of the Valiant, watching the green and blue planet grow larger on the screen. Laura stood beside him, her hand in his. Are you ready? He asked. She nodded. Jack has to be stopped. For both our peoples. The planet was beautiful, with 2 moons and rings like Saturn. It was hard to believe it was home to the race that had killed billions of humans. Admiral Winter's voice came through the communication system. All ships, prepare for resistance. Kizak controls the planetary defense system and most of the military units on the surface. The Supreme Commander, now on Winter's flagship, added, My loyal forces will create a diversion at the southern continent. That should draw away Kizak's main forces from the capital city. As predicted, when they entered the atmosphere, defensive weapons fired at them from the planet's surface. The fleet split up, with most ships heading south while a small group, including the Valiant, headed for the Imperial Palace in the capital. Heavy resistance ahead, Eric reported from his station. Ground troops and air defenses. Jack nodded. Deploy our special forces. Sergeant Diaz led the first wave of dropships. Human and loyal Draconid soldiers fought side by side against Kizak's forces. The fighting was fierce, but the combined team pushed forward toward the palace. Jack, Laura, and a small team joined the second wave. When they landed, the area around the palace was already secured. Diaz met them at the landing zone. Jack is cornered in the throne room, she reported. He has hostages and threatens to activate some kind of doomsday weapon. What kind of weapon? Laura asked. Unknown, but the Supreme Commander says Kizak has been developing forbidden technologies for years. They hurried through the grand halls of the palace. The architecture was strange but beautiful, with high ceilings and walls made of a crystal-like material that changed colors in the light. When they reached the throne room doors, they found them sealed. Laura quickly went to work on the control panel. I can get us in, but we'll only have seconds before he knows we're there. Jack nodded to Diaz and her team. Be ready for anything. The doors slid open, and they rushed in. The throne room was massive, with a domed ceiling painted with stars. Kizak stood on a raised platform, surrounded by frightened Draconid civilians. He was taller than the Supreme Commander, with darker scales and red eyes. In his hand was a small device. Stop right there, humans, Kizak hissed. One more step, and I activate this weapon. It will destroy not just this planet, but every world where our species meet. It's over, Kizak, Jack said calmly. Your forces are defeated. The Supreme Commander has regained control of the fleet. Jack's eyes narrowed. The Supreme Commander is weak. Humans will destroy us eventually. I merely struck first. You're wrong. Laura stepped forward. We wanted peace. We still do. Jack laughed. Peace, after all the blood that has been spilled. Impossible. Blood that you spilled, Diaz said angrily. Jack moved slowly closer. We could have destroyed your homeworld from orbit. We could have wiped out your species. But we didn't. That should tell you something about humans. Jack hesitated, his finger hovering over the device. In that moment of hesitation, Laura activated the same device she had used on the command ship. Kizak froze, the weapon falling from his paralyzed hand. Diaz rushed forward to grab it. 3 months later, Jack and Laura stood in a garden on Earth. Around them, humans and Draconids worked together, rebuilding what had been destroyed. The new peace treaty is stronger than the last one, Laura said, with real cooperation this time, not just a truce. Jack nodded. Sergeant Diaz, General Diaz, says the joint peacekeeping forces are working well together. Laura placed her hand on her stomach, which was just beginning to show. I hope our child grows up in a galaxy where humans and Draconids are allies, not enemies. They will, Jack said confidently. We learned something important from this war. True strength isn't about having the most powerful weapons or the biggest fleet. It's about knowing when not to use that power, Laura finished. As they watched the sun set, ships from both worlds passed overhead, no longer bringing destruction, but helping to build a new future, together.